All right, so we used to do a very popular show here on YouTube called This Week is Stupid. Sargon was the first one that did it. He actually branded it, and then I did it for a while, but it was quite difficult to do. Not because of the editing or finding the news, but you actually do go mentally insane when you realize that most of these articles, they happen in the real world, and there's actual people that go through them, and it takes a toll on you. I don't know like how journalists do these things.
Well, they don't. I mean, these kinds of things, the This Week in Stupid type of things, it's only a thing of YouTubers. Generally speaking, people don't do that precisely because it takes a toll. I used to do the same thing. I think it was called the Terrible News or something like that, even before Sagan, and I stopped doing it. And I still have a ticket in my internal system with the next episode, and it's been laying there for like 3 years. And I'm like, I'm just not doing it. I have the good news video, and that's how I did it. I balanced it with the good news video.
You got to get
Yes,
the good
a
news.
periodic insanity. That was the name of the series. Yeah, so it's periodic insanity and the good news video because otherwise you go crazy.
You can do it. Like, listen to this, right? Donald Trump blocks $50 million funding for condoms in Gaza. Like, can you imagine, the average American lad just working there 10 hours a day, the government takes his body in order to give it for condoms for the people in Gaza.
International gay communism is real, man. I'm just saying.
So the Trump administration, they put a freeze on federal funding, including $50 billion, originally embarked for condoms distribution in Gaza. According to the White House press secretary, Caroline Levitt. The freeze now is temporarily blocked by a federal judge, was part of a broader fiscal policy aimed at reviewing and potentially relocating federal budget expenditure to align with the administration policies. Apparently, a problem with this is that the people from Gaza, they use the condoms to make bombs. Like they would.
Well, yeah, sure. It's very high quality plastic, and yeah, I guess it could work.
And so, like, the interesting thing is, like, no matter which side of the conflict you are, American taxpayer money is hard at work.
Yeah, pretty much. It's been happening for so long. I mean, I've been tweeting a lot about this. I mean, I'm hoping that the Trump administration has someone competent enough into evaluating the NGO grifts.
How do these grifts work? Because this is actually interesting. You know better than I do. Like, how like, why do people take American taxpayer money to buy condoms for the people in Gaza?
For a commission, obviously. For the commission.
How does that work? Like,
well, I've been part of USAID type of projects, including one with condoms, actually, in 2001. And during that project, I ended the careers of 10 NGO career people because, I was making them looking bad. Because what I would do was import the condoms straight from the United States and distribute them straight to the agreed upon beneficiaries, and that would be pretty much it. I would
so no money wasted. Just
yeah,
100% or like close to 100%.
Close to 100%, yes.
Of donations go to the actual condoms.
Yeah. And as a result, I would make them look bad because all the others had like 40% or 50% overhead, and so obviously it was less efficient.
But how do they steal money? How do they manage to enrich themselves?
Yeah, the way this works essentially is, I don't know if it's still true today, but in 2000 you still had the option to order straight up the condoms, so the money would actually stay in the US, and you would buy them from American corporations. The pro-gay lobby in Romania would prefer that because Americans made much better condoms, which are very useful for homosexual activities, right? But all the others, not necessarily. The other option was to just get the money, and the more you build some trust with the agency, the more money they would be able to give it to you, and then in return you would give bills and say, look, I bought that many condoms, and here's some footage where I distributed them or whatever. And usually about half of that was true, and the other half was the money was pocketed and just present fake bills. I mean, getting a fake bill.
So basically they're outright stealing them?
Yes. It's a very simple grift, really.
So like from $50 million, you're saying that 25 million would have stayed in the United States? And then 25 million would have been used for the actual purchasing of condoms and paying for the people involved in...
Don't get me wrong, it's more people that steal. So it's the bureaucrats from USAID themselves. You bribe those to approve your project. Mm-hmm. Then it is the NGO people themselves, and sometimes the people beneath them, the volunteers, also get a cut. Depends on how the deal was made. It's all, of course, non-transparent, and it's all on the
Because that's the thing, a lot of Americans they generally believe that the Democrats like actually want to give condoms to the people in Gaza, or they're insane, they don't know what they're
I don't
doing.
know specifically about Gaza, but I do know quite a bit about these programs that distribute HIV drugs and condoms and whatever, because I worked in that field.
Yeah.
So, but they usually do what they say, but the amount of waste is sometimes 60% or 50%.
Jesus.
Yeah, so no, if a program costs 50 million, probably half of it gets stolen. And that's the best case scenario. There have been situations where close to 90%.
Aren't there like online transactions? Like, don't people get to see where the money is coming and going?
Not necessarily.
Can't they audit it?
Depends on the country, because in Gaza, well, it's an area under sanctions, so they can't actually do online transactions.
Oh.
So there's another opportunity for grift, because some of it has to quite literally be converted into crypto, because only crypto can be transferred to Gaza.
I see.
Right. So there's
So like some condoms do reach to the actual place, so they can have the video, the footage. It's like, look, we donated,
Yeah,
but like no one can actually go in a war zone and count the number of condoms that have arrived.
there you go. Yeah. Auditing that is very difficult.
That's why they chose Gaza.
Yeah,
then.
and it's not just Gaza. I mean, there's programs like that in Kenya. There's programs like that in Uganda, in the Democratic Republic of Congo. There's so many of them. That's why I'm saying I'm hoping Dodge can actually audit all of the NGO grifts. I've made a calculus about 3 years ago how much of this. It's about almost $1 trillion per year
Well, I think the
wasted by the.
conservatives may have their own NGOs with their own grifts, right?
Of course, no. So I'm saying all of the NGO grifts are about $1 trillion a year from the federal budget. That's just the NGO grift. I mean, I would cut them all. I mean, I wouldn't do a freeze like that. No, I'm just saying, okay, as of today, unique article in this executive order. USAID ceases to exist and all of
Oh,
it.
we're going to talk about that because that's also on the menu, and there's a lot of complaint about it. Let me see the first one. This one is interesting. Trump's executive order will strip funding from K-12 schools who indoctrinate students with radical gender ideology.
Right.
It would also protect parents' rights. A lot of schools were just put on notice.
Okay.
And now my timeline is filled with teachers that have rainbow-colored hair and are experiencing a tremendous meltdown.
Tough.
To which one of the responses was to point out that in Illinois, let me see if I can find the one which says that there is
0 pupils who read at grade level or something
yeah, like it's insane.
Yeah, you told me about that. I've seen the tweet myself as well. I think that stat is wrong. I think it's made by the Democrats to make Illinois look good, because it implies that there are schools in
I found
Illinois.
it. Sorry for interrupting. Not a single student can read at grade level in 30 Illinois schools.
Yeah, I'm saying that stat is made by Democrats to make Illinois look good, because it implies that there are schools in Illinois where there are. I don't think that is the case. I'm very serious with this. Public schools in Illinois are probably the worst schools in the world, and I'm not even joking. There are those $1 a week schools in Kenya. All 100% of those are
And how much
superior.
money is going to these schools?
Well, I don't know the exact number, but the US spends the most amount of money per pupil in the world, hands down. It's not even a question. I mean, the second place is like half, more than $40,000 per pupil per year.
So they can't read and write, but they know they're LGBTs. I'm pretty sure,
So no, they know a few letters, obviously.
They know they're LGBTs, yeah, but they don't know their ABCs.
Yeah, they know a few letters, just not the correct ones. Now, the thing is that this has been a thing in the making since '79. Since the creation of the Department of Education, education has gotten significantly worse. But of course, there is an inertia. The first 15, 20, 25 years, it wasn't that bad. Then Mr. Bush came with this tremendous idea, called No Child
Left Behind,
and it got progressively worse. And then this wonderful chap named Bill Gates also came up with his own ideas, the Common Core implemented during the Obama administration, the first Obama administration, and now we're seeing the results. And of course the results are terrible. It was designed to be terrible, because everything the government touches turns to shit. And once you
Except for war. I mean,
and even that sometimes. But when you add on top the government grift, you also add NGO grifts and NGO money laundering, because that's what Common Core really is. Of course it's going to be terrible. Why is anyone acting surprised by this? I mean,
well,
conservatives warned about this 35 years ago.
You know what's interesting? What do the Americans call it? The Ministry of Education?
Department of Education.
The Department of Education. When you talk to random people that Trump wants to dismantle the Department of Education, it's almost like Americans just will not know how to read and write. It's like this idea in the mind of the common person.
Yes.
that this is something so sacred that existed from the founding fathers, and it
Yeah.
was inherited all the way, right? So like, how can Americans possibly know their ABCs without the Department of Education? And then when you look at it, it was
Founded in 79.
founded in 79. And since the founding of the Department of Education, the intelligence coefficient of the Americans have been plummeting.
Yeah, the more planners fail, the more planners plan. I mean, this as old as Ludwig von Mises, more than 100 years ago, nothing changed, and it will continue to stay that way. Can the Department of Education be abolished? Unfortunately, this is a very weird thing in the American politics. It's actually easier to abolish a ministry or a department in Romania than
Than
it is
in
in the
the
US.
United States, yeah.
Right. In Romania, it was that the Ministry of Sports got abolished 3 years ago, very unceremoniously, like through an SMS. It was basically the minister was texted, "You're fired, by the way," and all of your institution gets
Well,
demolished.
actually, kind of like Biden resigning, right? Like he gives a text on Twitter. It's like, yeah, I'm dropping out of the race.
Yeah, pretty much. Right. But in the US, you can't do that. In the US, even though the departments serve at the discretion of the president can fire everyone, but cannot abolish the institution.
So you can literally fire like everyone from the department, but the department will still exist.
Yes, and all of its subsequent regulation and jurisprudence and whatnot. Abolishing it requires a very complicated procedure through the Congress, and I don't think the Republicans have the vote to abolish the Department of Education. Should the Department of Education be abolished? Obviously, yes.
Can you make it into a clown car?
Well, it already is. I mean.
No, I mean like make it inefficient to run to the point where.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, that's not complicated. Just have Chris Rufo run it. So and task him to make it inefficient. Although he probably would task it to JLDI people. Or
See,
whatever.
this is exactly why we were talking in the previous video, right? This is how Romanians vote. It's like, okay, we can't get rid of them. Make them inefficient.
Yeah, make them inefficient, or just punish them and make them suffer just because you can, just because potato, obviously. Yeah, that works. That could work. But yeah, should the Department of Education disappear? Yeah, of course.
Will it? No.
I don't think so. Maybe the conservatives' optimism will turn out to be correct, and we'll have two J.D. Vance administrations after the Trump 2.0 administration. In that case, hopefully J.D. Vance can carry more Republicans in the Congress, and then yes.
Usually, I'm a little bit skeptical because, like, as you mentioned with the factions, right? Like when one faction gets dominion, even if it's a right-wing faction, they start grifting. They start,
of course.
yeah. So a little bit of switcheroo is actually required.
Well, we can do. I mean, I've seen some Republicans arguing for that. I mean, yeah, let's turn education into a right-wing grift. The thing is that today's version of that is charter schools in the US, which, to be fair, is a highly effective grift. I mean, it enriches the conservatives in education, but also delivers a far superior product to the governmental one, which, to be fair, that's not difficult. The governmental product is absolutely terrible. So just being better than the government is a very low bar. But can that be turned nationally via the department? Probably yes, but it's not going to be easy.